So this is my G35 Sedan, and today we will finally get the car on the ground and able to take it for its first test drive and even its first drift event. But let's just say my bad luck with cars still continues with even one of the most reliable drift cars you could possibly get. But first, let's go ahead and get the car prepped for its first event and its first test drive by installing some BC Racing coilovers. Well, today's the day. We're gonna get some nice BC Racing coilovers on the G. Now, where we left off last was getting the both front and rear FDF kit on the car, and we got all that complete minus brakes. Well, I guess coilovers too, because that's what we're doing today. Yep, these should be the rear. I did go with a 8K setup. Oh, dang, packaging is a little too good. On the fronts, we ended up going with a 12K setup on the spring rate. So this is just gonna add a little bit of extra stiffness up front. I tend to like the car to float the front a little bit more, especially with the way I've been driving in the sim recently. So now I'm trying to almost replicate the driving style that I'm at in the sim on the car. Let me get these the rest of the way out of the box, and then we can start getting on to everything. What I think we're gonna do here is actually just leave them exactly how they are, because I know the preload is already set from BC, and these should already be at equal length and relatively close to what factory would be. So more than likely, we will have to go lower rather than higher, but that's usually a given anyways with almost any coilovers you pick. So let's check a rear on and see what it looks inside the fender well. Your factory strut does not come with a nut for your bolt that goes through here, essentially. So BC provides you with one that is usually just zip tied to the bottom fork of your rear coilover. Put it from front to rear in the direction. After that, obviously throw a jack underneath it so we can get the suspension up, or if you don't have a jack, just make sure you have an extra hand with you or somebody else helping there, so that they can lift up on this and you can guide the top of the coilover into the bolt. So I'm gonna start jacking up while keeping this in line. May have to twist it a little bit. Alright, once you get it up there, before your Harbor Freight jack starts leaking, that's 6 years old. No, my Harbor Freight jack is not one of the newer good Daytona ones. It's one of the old gray Pittsburgh ones. It's better to have a freaking extension. Makes it a little easier to get up in there. Good to go. Honestly, as simple as it gets for a rear coilover on a Z or G chassis. Just like that. Now let's just do a quick little install on the passenger side. Boom, good to go on the rears. And the good thing is, with the mild Mantis kit from FDF, we shouldn't have to worry about any brake lines getting in the way or having to extend those for any reason, because this shouldn't poke out nearly as much as the Mega Mantis kit. We should have really good fitment up front, for sure, definitely out rear. Go ahead and drop your guesses as to what wheels I'm gonna run on the G. Now let's put this thing here. Easiest way to do it is disconnect both sides. Whenever you have both sides hooked up along with the sway bar, you can't get the other side to go low enough in order for you to get the coilover up into the top mount holes and then onto the lower control arm. Go ahead and unbolt both. Don't try and do one side and then completely do the other. Just literally zip both top hats off at the same time while you're up here. Everything else is fine. We will worry about adjusting the dampener and everything whenever the car is actually running and on the ground. And we drive it a few times, because I've never driven the G itself and like mentally looking to fine tune it. Let's jump down on the bottom. Literally the easiest job I've had to do on the G so far. Everything else has been nothing but headaches. You'll run into some small little problem or something stupid breaking. Like yesterday, I didn't even show it on camera, but I had a knuckle on the passenger side brake, or not brake, but a bolt right here that snapped, which is actually very common. You have essentially, I think it goes this way or something like that. And water collects down in here in this like little pocket and just gets stuck, so it ends up rusting those bolts. And even the one that was on camera, I actually did show, it rusted itself to the threads and actually took some of the threads out with it, which ended up chewing up some of the other threads on the inside, which we had to re-tap a little bit with the old bolt. Luckily, we just were able to use an old bolt, and it was that simple. But yeah, gotta love BCs. Always a quick and easy install for a very satisfying final product. So look, now that we got the car almost all the way done, it's got BC coilovers, it's got the FDF kit, it's got the rear arms, da 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 da. It's basically ready to drive. Now, I couldn't finally get it ready and on the ground and everything in this video, so I went ahead and spent some time off camera, you know, rolling fenders, doing alignments, and just button up some last minute stuff, along with handbrake too. I finally got the calipers in. But I wanted to go over a couple things on the G35 and along with show you guys what it actually looks like when it's on the ground, because G35 sedans, for one, aren't, I will say, the prettiest looking four-door. So once you have them all done, lowered on, I guess not done, but lowered and on the ground and everything, they tend to look way better. So the car works, and we have a major surprise that actually just showed up the other day for this car, but we'll have to get into that because I do sadly have some bad news on this car as well. Typical me with cars, I can't seem to keep them running. I think that's a sign that I should probably have someone else do the important parts. Or actually, no, I just need to suck it up. I need to stop being a bitch and do it right. Anyways, we'll get into that, but for now, I went ahead and threw together a little montage of me finally getting the wheels on, getting it on the ground, going on a test drive, and all that stuff. So I'll go ahead and play that now, and we'll get into it. Now, I figure we'll start with the good news. Well, for one, we did finally get to take it out to an event, which was our local track, the Chase Bay's Polecat event, which comes around a couple times a year. And It did not go so well. I've been driving this car around for a few weeks now. I'm just like daily driving it because that's kind of what the car is meant for originally. I even took it to TogeCon and drove it around out there in Arkansas. It was actually really great, other than some exhaust coming up through the trans tunnel because the flex pipes on the exhaust are leaking, so I've got to replace that. I have another Y pipe in the garage. I just haven't done it yet. I did go out and get some laps in. They weren't the best laps because, for one, I knew I expected the G35 Sedan to be a lot different than when my Z was VQ, but I didn't expect it to be extremely different. I set that car up to be virtually not the same setup, but a compensation of the same setup for one, how heavy the car is compared to the Z, and having slightly a longer wheelbase. Now, I used to run 255, 265 Accelera 651s on the car when it was on the Z, on the Z when it was VQ, and had no issue with grip and stuff like that. It was honestly not enough grip for what I wanted at the time, which is why I ended up going to RB and getting more power, That's a whole nother rabbit hole. But the G35 absolutely did not have the same power range as the Z did. I don't know if it's a tune difference in the ECUs or maybe it was actually under power, because it did kind of seem a little sluggish, but I mean, I didn't have any misfires or anything like that because, again, it's a stock car. I can just check the codes. Obviously, there's some variables there of some stuff that'll happen without throwing a code, but to my understanding, it was fine. I did go out and I forgot to clip the fuses on the ABS, so I did have to go back to the pits and do that. That fucked me up on my first entry. I traded some wheels out with Jackson Saxon. If you guys don't know who that is, I've had him on the podcast before. If you haven't seen that episode, you should definitely check it out. But he lent me some Serbs, I think they were, with some just normal street tires, and I took those out and it freed the car up tremendously. I was originally running Zach Novas, if anyone's curious. They were 235s, 300 tread wears, and I had them at about 65, 70 psi. Now I know Polecat itself does have a very grippy surface. It's almost like a normal street road, but on that same instance of me borrowing some wheels and tires from Jackson, I went out and finally did a couple laps. I got around once and then I came off just to check everything, make sure the car was good, nothing fell off, and I decided to go back out.
So bad.
As I decided to go back out, I started hearing a louder exhaust leak, and as one does, knowing you already have a leak, you're probably just thinking, okay, maybe I just busted the hole open more and it's just louder now. So I was just like, fuck it, let's just go back out. I've been dealing with issues all morning. I want to get a lap in now that I finally have some tires that are a little freed up. So we go out, and immediately when I get on the throttle, it starts getting worse and worse and worse. And I go ahead, I link a few turns, and I'm about halfway through the track. I think we're coming up to the gravity cavity. Right before we got to the gravity cavity, the car just killed itself.
Oh, I just lost power. Oh, shit. Oh, fuck.
Just completely didn't lose power, technically. I still had power, but no throttle response. Everything was dead at 0. And I was like, okay, well, not too sure what that's about. And so we were just like, let's just try and limp it back to the pits. And so we're just coasting. We made it almost, maybe 1/8 of a mile, if that, to the actual exit of track back to the pits and everything. They just decided to leave me out there until session was over. There was only like 15 minutes left anyway, so we just chilled and just sat in the car until he came out. So we get it back to the pits and get it unloaded. Turns out I blew like 5 fuses. I decided to jack the car up and see what's going on underneath with the exhaust leak. Maybe that caused it. Turns out it did. It was 100% the reason. And as I get under the car, I'm looking at it, and I'm looking exactly where the Y pipes are. They look exactly the same, like no holes. They've blown out even more. So I'm like, what the fuck was that exhaust leak? So I decided to look up a little bit at the new headers, or sorry, not the new headers, the new downpipes that I had just put in. And 2 out of 3 on the passenger side of the nuts had backed completely off of the bolts, and the downpipe was barely hanging on by 1 bolt. So there was a massive opening where they connect to the headers, and that was just dumping all of the hottest exhaust possible onto my harness that goes to what used to be the speeds, or what used to be the transmission. That obviously doesn't get used anymore because it's a manual swap. And it goes to your O2 sensors as well. It melted that entire part of the harness, fused it all together, caused a massive short in the system, and from my understanding, fried the ECU. I had a scanner on me. I always bring a scanner to the track. Usually I have one in my daily everywhere I go. But I plugged the scanner up and it would not read anything, like at all. Like there was no ECU there. It was just a dead system with a battery. After that, I'm like, oh, fuck. Okay, so let's go ahead and replace all these fuses, which I should have done that beforehand anyways. And then once I got that figured out, it would read the codes. It would read the check engine light and understand that there's an ECU, but it would just, I don't think it gave me any actual codes to go off of. So I went underneath and I decided to split all the wires apart. I uncovered the section that was completely melted, split them all apart, and then I just individually wrapped electrical tape around each individual wire. Listen, I know that's a very embarrassing statement that I just made, and I don't condone anyone else doing that, but all I wanted to see was if the car would even start, because I wanted to find out if the ECU was fried, and this was all I could think of at the time to do that. So I went ahead, taped every single wire individually on that section of the harness, and from what I could tell, covered all of the melted parts. I go back up, and again, the car just cranks. Doesn't do anything. I don't hear the fuel pump kicking on. I don't hear the starter, or sorry, I hear the starter, and that's quite literally it. I don't hear anything else. So down to my delinquent mechanic understanding, truthfully, we need a new automatic G35 Sedan harness. Might be able to botch my old Z manual harness and make that work and just splice it into that. But again, I don't really like wiring and I don't really trust myself either. You guys let me know what you think I should do. Maybe I should just pick up another auto sedan harness for $100 and make that work. Whatever. But for now, that car is not running. It's sat on the trailer since Polecat, and it'll continue to sit there because a couple weeks ago, I ran into a listing on Marketplace on a RB25. I'm not going to go through the whole deal that we went through and the negotiation process, but we settled at a very, very good number, and I was able to scoop this RB25 up for a really good deal. So major thanks to that dude, because now we can finally get the Z going and really dial in that swap. So whenever I first did the swap, I didn't really do a good job of documenting the whole process, and I want to revisit that this time because now I know a lot more about the swap, and I know it's nowhere near where it needs to be. For one, the motor sits way too low. It needs to be raised a little bit. And for two, the motor needs to go back quite a bit, but the subframe's in the way of the oil pan, so we got to go rear sump, and we got to cut the false firewall out, and we got to do a whole bunch of other stuff. But the good news is, on that part, we do have the means to do it all. So now that we have the motor, I can go ahead and get the old one out, get that on the jack stand. Maybe we can tear down into that one and see what actually happened to it. If you guys are interested, just leave me a comment below and we'll dive into that. But this will give the opportunity to go ahead and get that motor out. We can take the car up to one of my clients for my media company, Synergy Race Development, and get some actual motor mounts made for where this motor should be specifically in this chassis. It needs to go way back so that the center of gravity is more in the center of the car, and so that we're rotating around the weight more. Now, the argument to that a lot of people will make is that, oh, the RB25 is actually about the same weight as the VQ. Yes, that is true, but it's so much longer. For one, you have an iron block very long motor, so you have more room on the sides, yes, for turbo intake, all that stuff, which is phenomenal, but it sticks way too far over the front rack, which causes really weird twitchiness up front that I'm not too fond of. Like this car could drive 10 times better with the motor just moved back maybe 4 or 5 inches. And if we do that and convert it to rear sump, we almost might be able to just bolt in some like factory OEM poly VQ mounts to the RB. I still have the RB's factory mounts that come off of the block with that little pivot and platform to bolt onto the same bushing that 32s use. It may work out even better doing it this way. We'll just have to see. But the reason I put this at the end of the video was because I know the guys that are still watching to this point are the ones that actually care and the ones that I care the most about to give their opinion. And I want to hear from you guys. What would you rather see me do? Because I don't always have the most time to really shoot these type of videos. The podcasts take up a vast majority of my life, and I want to make sure that you guys still get to see the back end of things as far as the cars, because the cars are cool. Podcast is great, and there's plenty of information there. But I know a lot of you guys are interested in the G35 and in the RB swap on the Z. So would you rather me divert and go to the Z, get that finished? I'm going to be doing it either way, whether it's in the background or not. But let me know. Would you rather see more on the G35 or the RBZ? I think that's an easy answer, but I'll leave it to you guys. And if you did stick around for this long, seriously, thank you. You guys are amazing. You're the whole reason I do this anyways. So major appreciation to you. Now, I don't really mention this too often, especially nowadays on the podcast, but I have noticed recently that majority of you guys that do come back and watch each and every week are not subscribed. So sometimes I know you can just like skip over it and not even notice because YouTube's constantly spitting you the podcast. But if you do like the channel, you do learn stuff from it and you enjoy it, consider subscribing. The content's completely free to you guys, and it helps me tremendously. Along with like the video and just give me your feedback. I am always willing to hear your feedback, and I want to hear it. I always want to make the podcast better. Let me know your feedback, and let me know if you want to see more of these type of videos. And other than that, we got some special podcasts coming up as far as guests, so stick around for those. Make sure you hit the bell notification so you know when they come out. But yeah, I'm just blabbing at this point. I'll see you guys next time. Really appreciate it. Bye.
Staying way up to the ceiling. Trust no bitch, can't catch no feelings. I've been taking long flights from the Bay to Ibiza. Hit home runs, I'm a ball like Jeter. I just want 4-4-4, then I leave her. I'm a young pop star, call the boy Justin Bieber. Got a little money if you want, I can teach her. Whole life a movie, you can watch it in theater.